Now get into this oral hypoglycemic agents. The first drug being metformin. Metformin is one drug which is available for the past about close to, we can say, the group of drugs, the biguanides, are available for about 100 years. It ran its own controversial phases and struggling phases to establish its own glory and evolving as a drug as we see now. So we can't think of treating any type 2 diabetic patients without metformin nowadays. But the place that metformin has achieved today, or the confidence that we have evolved over a period of time, it didn't happen without controversy. So we'll just dwell on all these controversies to understand how metformin has evolved with the other side effects and how this drug should be placed in our current clinical practice. So the herb Gelliga officinalis, that is the original name. It is called as Gelliga or goat's rue. It is an herbivorous plant which is native to parts of Northern Africa, Western Africa and Europe. So which is available in commonly as grown as a forage crop or an ornamental or a bee plant, and even as a green manure, which was associated with reduction in the blood sugar. Also it has the property of being a diuretic. This can be sometimes poisonous to mammals also, but generally it serves as a food for various insects. This Gelliga officinalis, which people knew that it can reduce the blood sugar, later in 1918, this galigilin and guanidine were extracted from the Gelliga officinalis. These galigin and guanidine, as you see the name guanidine, these two extracts, they led to the discovery of the insulin, are the foundation of the discovery of insulin. These two compounds were extracted from goat's rue or Gelliga officinalis, and they form the precursor for the discovery of metformin, the previous generation drugs. So as early as in 1920s, C.K. Watanabe, he's a Japanese scientist. He was the first who gave this guanidine, which was extracted from this Gelliga officinalis, to guinea pigs and to some of these mice, and he was able to show that these drug was associated with the decrease in the blood sugar. And this led to the discovery of, in 1926, syntheline A, but syntheline A was associated with lots of hepatotoxic properties. Later there was syntheline B was discovered, but syntheline B, though it was associated with increased urobilirubinemia, it was not a hepatotoxic, but just because there was urobilirubinemia, people started believing that this was also will be associated with lots of hepatotoxic properties, but it was not so, which was later proved in 1950s. Meanwhile, it led to the discovery of other biguanides in the form of buformin and fenformin. So the first phase of discovery ended way back in 1930s or so. Once syntheline A and syntheline B was associated with the hepatotoxic properties, and later we came to the discovery of buformin and fenformin, the other biguanides which were available, and these biguanides were used in the UGDP study. We will speak about this UGDP study which more in detail when we talk about sulfonylurea, because this is one study where we need to understand that it is how a study can be wrongly conceived and wrongly interpreted. We will talk about this in our upcoming module on sulfonylurea. But what we learnt with buformin and fenformin when they were used in practice was they were associated with the increase in the incidence of lactic acidosis. So that gave a death blow to these molecules, both buformin and fenformin, and because of the increase in the incidence of lactic acidosis, these drugs were not widely taken up. Then there ended the second phase of these biguanides journey, where lactic acidosis came as a death blow. Then in 1980s, the third phase of this discovery in the journey of metformin started with the revival of the metabolic syndrome. We started understanding about how the metabolic syndrome is causing diabetes, and we need address the insulin resistance pathway. So once we have understood this metabolic syndrome pathway, that led to the usage of metformin like in 1990s. This is now the phase of metformin. But metformin, like in countries like India and other Southeast Asian countries, metformin was widely used even before 1990s or so. But it was not available in US, UK, because this drug was told like metformin will not be associated with gastrointestinal side effect. But people were, once they were using metformin, be in Germany, be in France, be in other European countries, as well as the American when it was used in US. So they were marketed as that it won't have gastrointestinal side effect. But when people were using metformin, they were seeing the gastrointestinal side effects predominantly. So they thought like metformin, though it is marketed as a drug without causing all these side effects, but what they perceived was it was associated with the side effects, and they thought like the side effects which were available with buformin and fenformin, like in the form of lactic acidosis or the hepatotoxicity, also will be there in metformin. It took lots of time for us to get reassured that this was not associated with the lactic acidosis like it happened with buformin and fenformin. So that happened with a couple of articles which got published in NEJM in 1995, which we will see in a couple of minutes. But the biggest endorsement to metformin came in the form of this article, the UKPDS 34, which got published in Barcelona, Spain. This is a most landmark article which gave the endorsement to the usage of metformin.